What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sneaker History Podcast. Now on YouTube. If you're tuning in on that Google streaming, go ahead and make sure you click and subscribe to this video. I'm Robbie, and I'm sitting down here with my man Ricky Shoebio. And it's a funny story because when I read your Instagram and when I read the email, I'm like, this dude's playing chess and I'm playing checkers. He changed his name to Shoebio, like he's the biography of shoes. And lo and behold, God and nature just did him a favor and gave him a great name for sneakers. So how you doing, man?
I'm all right, man. Like, super grateful to be a part of it. Super grateful to be on. And yeah, like you said, ironically, man, I just lucked up and it was like, I guess it was my calling to be, you know?
Man, I mean, there's so many stage names that are just forced, and this is perfect. And we're very happy to have you here with us. When I say us, I guess me. We're rolling solo today. But I'm really happy to have you here because we were just discussing before we turned the mic on. It's great to have collaboration, and it's great to have people from across the country coming together, talking shoes, talking their journey, what's inspired them. And that's exactly what we're doing today. We're going to have a chat with Ricky and kind of go through who he is, what he does, you know, what about sneakers, why sneakers, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. What's up? What's going on, Ricky?
I mean, you know, listen, just trying to enjoy the holiday season, trying to close the year out healthy, safe, and strong in a lot of aspects. You know, for me, it's been a blessed year. You know, with everything going on, things haven't hit too close to home. As far as the world pandemic side of things, like, you know, as far as some of the social things going on, I definitely that's always going to hit home, and you know, definitely took part in that. But to see everything that has come through the shit, definitely said, man, it's been a blessing for me because you know, work has still been work, still been a lot of opportunities, a lot of work in sneakers, a lot of work with creativity, and just been able to expand and grow on things. So it's been good.
Man, you're the modern man. When I look at your titles you got going on, you got creator. You know, I know you're nice with the camera.
Yes, sir.
You're a brand consultant. You're a content strategist. There's a lot of things there. So why don't you give us a look into what different hats you wear and how those titles apply to where you are today? Like, what do you do day to day in sneakers that has you with those titles?
So, I mean, for me, we got a photographer, videographer, social media management, social media direction, creative director, content strategist, of course, content creator, brand consultant, CEO of Kid, or founder of Kid, not CEO, sorry. Let me see if anything else it's that may be it for the moment. I may be missing a few things. I just gotta make sure I get everything. So, you know, when somebody calls me like, oh, I didn't know that you don't do this anymore. Like, no, we still do that. So, like, it's a couple of different titles, and it kind of just boiled down from wearing so many hats when I came into the industry a little bit more. Like, always been in the game, always been in the sneaker community. But when I got a chance to actually do work, working for a publication, that's when things kind of changed. So I had a couple of different hats there that allowed me to pivot. And once I decided to move on to my own, allowed me to pivot and be able to do a lot of the stuff I do now. So, yeah, I mean, as far as sneakers, things that you'll see me do, I do some of the I do some of the product photography for some of the bigger banners out there. You know, you guys have seen some of my work on, you know, a lot of different places, whether it be with, you know, Nike, Jordan Brand, Foot Action, Foot Locker, Puma, Reebok, who else under the sun? K-Swiss, Asics, done some stuff with Ewing, but shouts to my fam over at Ewing. They're very self-sufficient. A lot of people, everybody, you know, and that's the way I like it to be. Like, you know, we don't just like one type of shoe. We like a lot of different things. So you see I work on there. You see me in front of the camera with certain stuff, with certain brands and helping some people out. My creative mind is taking part in helping strategize and put together some of the things that you guys see out there. Like, you know, still trying to elevate, still on the way up on my climb. So I'm not laying claim to some of the biggest campaigns you guys have seen on the planet, but you guys have seen my work around. So.
No, man, it doesn't matter. Growth is growth. It doesn't matter if you're in Paris with PSG doing Jordan Brand stuff, or you're in your local Jersey, you know, it's putting in good humble work. So it's like, it doesn't matter. Growth is growth. And that's kind of my next question. What's the first thing you did in sneakers? What was the first thing that got you paid in sneakers when we went from a hobby to, okay, I can do this. Maybe I can keep doing this.
Okay. Ooh.
You can think. It sounds like you've done a lot of work. So it doesn't have to be the very, very first one, but just like some of your early experiences, how did you start getting your feet wet? How did you break the seal from collector or fan into somebody on the other side of the conversation?
I think the first thing that I thought was major, I want to say it's one of the festivals in Brooklyn that didn't happen, I don't think, last year. So I don't know if it's still going on. I want to say like Brooklyn Hip Hop Fest or something like that. One of those. It was one of the larger events between Tidal and then my man that had a brand Juice at the time, but it was part of the Brooklyn Hip Hop Fest. I want to say maybe like 6 years ago now. They brought me in as the featured like sneaker display guy. And I brought out a bunch of gems. Maybe it's 6 or 7 years at this point, maybe a little while. They brought me in and said, "Yo, we know you got a lot of stuff. You know, bring some stuff out. We'll put a display up. You'll be the single guy with a bunch of sneakers out." And we pulled out a few gems, like pulled out some rare sevens that you don't see. Pulled out a few pairs of ones. Pulled out, Ginger 16s at the time, which even at that point, like I still have Ginger 16s and Cherry Woods and Birthday LeBrons. I think we pulled out like there's a bunch of joints that was just like, yo, it's not just hype releases for stuff that's out right now. We're talking like, the stuff in my eyes that you should have had at a certain point. If you had it at a point, you was one of those people in the know, a few people in the circle. So pulled out a bunch of different joints at that point and that was like the first real moment. And the fact that it was like with Tidal was a large scale festival at the time. And I was like featured. That was like one of the first major moments as far as sneakers for me. That was actually prior to me being with a magazine too. So from there on, that kind of pivoted me to working with a media outlet, a magazine, to take care of certain lifestyle stuff, entertainment stuff, sneakers, sportswear, a lot of that fashion stuff too on that side. So that was like the first major moment.
That's so great. And I'm happy you brought up that kind of situation because a lot of people don't know when you go to a Jordan event or you go to a hip hop event or a neighborhood event that has sneakers, brands aren't sending cargo ships full of all these old shoes. There's people in the community providing those for the event.
Right.
Like, yeah, people just think 85 Jordan 1s show up from Jordan brand. No. It's like, no. What I mean, more times than none, somebody at Jordan brand who's just an old head has them. So they're not the hardest thing to find, but brands don't curate or have not curated their own joints like that. Like that's a great first, that's a great kind of first gig. Cause not only do you get to like run it in the Brooklyn community, what you're doing there, but you also get to really show, I know my shit. Like I know sneakers. Right. And that's what's really missing nowadays. It's always, Ben and Jerry's, Dior, Off-White, Ben and Jerry's, Dior, Off-White. Right. And it's like, a real head has a beat pair of Tiffany Dunks.
Right.
in the closet, cooked.
Right.
And I mean, the birthday LeBrons, man, you're talking about the birthday 4 or the 2, the brown 2s?
The 4. The brown 2s are still like eluding me to this day in a great condition.
Them's hard.
I've got a pair of the All-Star, ironically, first time broke them out. I got a pair of All-Star LeBron 2s that were dead stock. So we talked about first major moment that made me that opportunity I got, and then there was a moment where I realized like, oh, I'm there, like I'm a part of the game, and that was Nike flew a bunch of people out across all over the globe to LA when they announced the partnership with the NBA for the jerseys. So it was like a 2-day stay. Like you stayed one night, they left. And ironically, I was like, you know what? I can't show up to Nike for this type of event. They flew me from New York to LA, and I can't not have heat in the bag. So I'm like, what am I going to bring? I said, yo, it's time to pull out the Bron 2s, the All-Star Bron 2s. So the white and blue pair, which just chef's kiss.
Crazy.
Love them. In fact, no, I'm quoting wrong. Those aren't All-Star. All-Star was the gray and blue pair.
I don't want to do it to you, but yeah, gray with the blue and the white. Yeah.
My bad. No, I had the second colorway, which is the white and navy pair, which Love those. I actually do. I think because now you got me spinning through conversations. We've had many a
There's not a bad one. They're both
right.
great.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a tough choice between those. Like depending on the mood, I may go with the white and blue pair for more versatility in the wear. But those gray ones, like if I can find those in a damn near dead stock condition, those are a beautiful shoe too. The ironic part is I go to wear mine and I'm like, am I gonna wear these on day one or day two? I think we may have been out there for 3 days. Day one, day two, day three. I almost wore them on day two, or when they sent us up to go get changed. I come out and see my man Lance Fresh. Lance has got on the black and red pair. And I'm like, yo, out of all times I decide to wear this shoe and finally decide, you know what? I'm gonna wear these today. Or I'm thinking about wearing them for these trips. He's got them on. So like it was a wild moment, but that was one of the moments that definitely realized I was on, and just shoe wise, like LeBron's old birthday shoes were very, very different. Like so I don't think the 4 gets enough appreciation. And I've even got my pair with the suitcase, which was
People think it's a hardwood classic. People don't even think it's a LeBron birthday shoe.
right, and that's the thing. And you know, it's for those in the know, because if you were lucky enough to get that little case, that little packet, you didn't have to do anything extra. It was just ordering it within a certain window. It was like, yo, the first, I don't know, couple thousand people from each banner, because I know Finish Line had them at a point, Champs had them at a point. Like we're talking about when sneakers were different. You had to do different things to get different sneakers. I just ended up being one of those guys and lucked up with them.
Man, I could have a conversation with his early LeBron conversations. I mean, people sleep on what Ken Link did with that shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel the same way as you. I'm looking on eBay for the 2 in any color. I'm still hurt that Nike skipped that one on the retro series, but it's like you can't find them in good shape. And if you do, they're missing a strap, or even worse, they're missing one strap. Like if they're both missing the strap, whatever. It's just it's a hard thing to find. And I love that you described how you felt some kind of way when you saw somebody rocking something you were going to feel elevated in. And that kind of brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, is just how times truly were different when we were coming up. Like you did not want to have the same, in this situation, even model on somebody else, because it's like you want to establish your feet in the ground. Like I got mine. Like I got this too. Like look at what's going on over here.
Right.
And that was just a different era, man. And so let's talk about the shoes that kind of helped shape you growing up. The people around you, the situation, like we were just talking about, how you and your friends be like, okay, you cooking each other or complimenting each other on the good and the bad. Like, what did young Ricky look like growing up with sneakers?
I mean, young Ricky was like, yeah, for me, like I was fully into shoes. I mean, because we're talking about like, late 90s and stuff. Like we're talking bigger air units. Like, we're talking 97s, we're talking 98s, we're talking pillars, we're talking, like, I remember having the OG pillars. Like I'm a Pacers fan, and I remember having the OG pillars. So like
the Caterpillar tractors, bro, those things fucking huge.
Right. Like, that's a big bulky shoe. And if you look at like, bringing it over to Scotty's line, because I talked about being an up-tempo kid, and before he started to switch into that 99 into early 2001 with making shoes looking futuristic, you still had like, bigger, bulkier, heavy, full-size shoes. And for me, that was that aspect. And then, a little bit switching into how some of the times changed. Like, was always an Air Max guy, always going to be an Air Max guy. And you had just staples. Like, I remember having, for a quick second, when the black on black superstar highs was popping. Like we're talking about like a short run window where, superstar highs were in, around the time Air Forces was shaking, superstar highs was in, people was probably wearing velour suits. I'm talking about that timage, and even so, we're talking about, I'm super young at that point too, but still able to remember it. But for me, one of the biggest staples and first my money, my dollars as a kid shoes, Jordan 17s. Jordan 17s. Like presentation, execution, including Most Def, the ads leading up to it, the presentation of the physical shoe, talking about packaging and design. So much so that I was lucky enough, like 4 years ago, to circle back and be able to get OG Black, OG White Red, OG Original White and Blue colorway. All of them still had the tape on it, dead stock,
Oh yeah.
and a near dead stock pair of Lightning 17 lows, $1,100.
Damn near 5-6 pairs of shoes.
Right.
That's a come up, and kids don't know that they came. I mean, they're jazz inspired. If you don't know those little notes on there for the jazz, but they came in a suitcase, right?
Yep. Suitcase had one of the first interactive insertable discs that was kind of,
Yep.
it created a different experience. So you could listen to the songs and the words that they had on there, but there was also an interactive disc that came in, and if you put it in the computer, it reacted and all that stuff. So like, we're talking far ahead of its time as far as like presentation, and that was what has pushed me into a sucker for presentation with a shoe. So if I get a seeding kit now, or if I'm lucky enough to be able to get something that has exclusive packaging or release or something like that, I love the story that it tells. That's why whenever I do my deliveries, I'll read off whatever notes or look at whatever parts of these kits that I get, because the storytelling and presentation is everything for me in sneakers.
It's when you have all the shoes you pretty much have ever wanted, little things like that start mattering more, and you start taking them into account when you put something as like a top shoe of the year. Like that can make the difference between an okay shoe and a great shoe. I just love how close we are, because I came up a year after my first pair with the 18. My second pair was the 17 from the outlet without the briefcase, and I was like, I thought those came with the briefcase. Just mine came in an orange box. I was like, damn. But shoes were just different. Talk about packaging. You had the towel with the 18s. You had the little suede brush.
Yep.
Rest in peace to that towel. I left it at the gym. I thought it would be cool going to the gym one day and someone swooped that. I would have swooped it too. So whatever. I'm not mad about it. I still got the suede brush. I used that. But just times were different, and they were fun. Rest in peace, Sean John velour suits and P Farm.
Yes.
Velour suits. That was just Eminem with the deep sag. Like that was just fun time. And that's just how powerful Air Maxes are, right? We got the Volts just came out, the Air Max 90 infrareds.
Yep.
Those shoes are never going to go away. And it's just, you can be that's the most fun part about Air Max. You can be an Air Max head from the 80s, 90s, 2000. It'll be 2030 and they'll still be Air Max heads. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And that's a culture. And ironically, we spoke about, providing shoes, and my mind immediately went to Air Max Day stuff. How, if anybody that knows them has heard Mayor say, like, yo, Nike was calling me for certain shoes out of Air Max Day. Like, yo, can you get them here to provide for display? Because they're not in the vault. Certain stuff, like you said, nobody has. It's a part of the community. And shouts to Mayor as being one of the dudes that's always been super righteous and that I looked up into the game. Like, there's a few people that I looked up to in the game, and definitely show some love whenever we got a chance to meet, and whenever we do get a chance to chop it up. So that's definitely the case. But that all ties to me. Air Maxes are going to be timeless forever.
Man, you just did my work for me, because I want to talk about mentors and who inspired you and who you looked up to. So I know I was looking up to Russ and Nick, and it's whoever was writing the sneaker blogs, they were writing my gospel.
Right.
So who inspired you in the sneaker space?
I mean, if we're talking about, like, I'm always the type to pay homage to, the as the rule would say, the older gods and the people before. So I'm always gonna give credit to Russ, Nick, like you mentioned, Bobbito, Mayor, Clark Kent. Just talking about a lot of those cats that on the sneaker side are definitely like. The first time I met Russ, and I think the first time I met Clark, I think I both told them both the same thing, like, yo, and Bobbito. I guess I got a speech every time I meet somebody, like, but like, yo, without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm able to do. And I just thank them. Like, and not to give anybody any more credit than anybody else, but, Bobbito being the person with the most documentaries and information about himself through books and different things. I think in a lot of spaces, we don't realize how much Bob has done for the cultures that we may love, whether it was basketball and street ball and all that stuff, whether it was night scene culture in New York, whether it was radio culture with breaking certain artists and songs and getting them over into certain spaces, whether it was sneaker culture with him designing and repainting and doing certain things, and how he set up his sneaker shop back in the day and was like the first cat to put floodlights on the display to point at sneakers to create a different aesthetic when they had it. So it was like, it's so much different stuff. And I think about like, yo, me being a journalist, dabbling in music way back, me being in sneakers now, balling and being into the street ball culture, because that was heavy when we was young, you know, it was different. Like, there's so much. I told him like, yo, literally every aspect of everything I love, except for like art and I guess cinematography. Now that I speak on certain things, but like photography, cinematography, art. Yo, I gotta pay homage to you because you were one of the cats that was multifaceted. Like you hooped, you love music, you love sneakers. Like that's all me. Like that's really what it boiled down to. And I had to thank him when we met, and he was just super grateful, super cool dude. And we ended up talking about sneakers afterwards, and I had on the 3 a.m. Reeboks. He was like, yo, I've never seen those. And I was like, this looks like something you would have did. You would have been putting designs on a black shoe and all that stuff, or a white shoe and all that stuff. He was like, exactly, I need a pair of those. I got to talk to my people over at Reebok. But it's moments like that, man. Like a lot of those cats that put in a lot of the work, you know, even so, even clearing a lot of the lane, I thank him every time I see him. Jock Slade, yo, like just another good dude that's just been like, you know what, just on some fuck it, like not able to be pinned down or put into a box. Like you watch so much of what Jock does, he's got, and I hate the term to have his hands in because that's not the way it is because it's genuine. He has so many different interests that he expands on and makes the most of. Is just dope. And I mean, for any of us that's involved in this, to say, all right, like, you know, you can start out being somebody that loves the game and being into the game, but once you get into the industry, there's a certain few people that got some things on their mantle and accolades that they've done, and it's just like, you ain't really moving unless you done did this. Like, shit, if my name ever enters me being credited in a film or movie or some shit, and for y'all that don't know, if y'all don't know, do your Googles, Jock Slade with Dewey Cox. Just walk hard, go back and go watch that. You definitely gonna catch him in there. Like, and just being in different avenues and different angles. Like that's just crazy. So I'm trying to hit tiers like that, man.
He's Michael Jackson moonwalking, and all of us are just walking in concrete.
Right.
It's like,
waking up like, you know what? Today I want to work on this and just being able to do it. And I'm like, damn. Like that's what
we've had him in the same fashion we have you on right now, and just the work it takes to be great goes on behind closed doors. Right. People don't see. I mean, they see the YouTube, they see the free Xbox, they see the sneakers, but you don't know how. Like, turn the camera, and he does it sometimes. You turn the camera around, how much stuff to make what he makes look so good.
Right.
And that's just the physical, the mental, and the talent. You can't quantify. So it's crazy. But
that's a
lot of good OGs there, man. Bob's the homie Terrence's OG too, and he's like the lane creator. Bob, I mean, you brought up music. Terrence had to educate me on the DJ side. I forgot about that. I forgot about a pair of Air Force Ones he had. Like, shits is limitless.
Yeah, listen. You start to talk about things that he had hands in and what he's consulted in and what people called him for or what, and I'm like, we start to talk about, like, because any of us that do this, anybody, like, if you play basketball or if you love sneakers or involved in the game now and are trying to be forefront with it, you always wanted your own shoe. If you hoped, you did sports, you want your own shoe, you want a shoe deal. You like,
I still do.
Right.
Fuck it.
I'm lucky enough to say, I can say loosely, like, I guess I got a shoe deal now because I got a reoccurring packages that come from certain brands because I'm included in certain stuff. Like, you know, but in that same token, like, looking at the guys that paved the way for collabs and the process they went to it, and if you're talking to anybody now that looks at a collab and you really see, you know, the collabor or collabee, and that creator with the pick of the litter of what shoe they want and how so much say in design, where before it was like, yo, we can't even give you certain shoes. Like, I ended up talking to Stash about that. Stash was like, "Yo, they didn't let us choose from every single shoe that was out at the time back in the day. It was like, yo, this is what we got. This is what we'll allow you to work on. These are the color palettes and things, and not so much locked in that people didn't have certain say, but it wasn't like, yo, I want a Jordan collab and I represent this. Like, you weren't going to see that back when a lot of people were paving the way for so much of the stuff that we love now. And that's why for a lot of those guys, Stash being another one too, I'm always going to show homage in sneakers to a lot of those dudes.
It's not like you roll up and it's like, oh yeah, the BW,
Right.
The Air Max 3. I'll take one of those in
Right.
purple.
Right.
Slap my logo on it.
Exactly.
We straight.
That wasn't the case. It was like, listen, it's like when we talk about the DQMs going back, like that was such the story behind that shoe and the stories behind that shoe with them coming and putting that together were completely different. It wasn't like that wasn't number one idea and choice. That's like, yo,
go watch that video. There's a really good YouTube video on it where he was just like, fuck it, I gotta have something in like now. Right. And this bacon looks like we doing this because I'm out of time.
Right. And people gotta understand that like they had to go through hell in order for us to be able to get around and say certain things now. Like that's for me to be able to be a kid from Jersey that grew up, that been out and all over the East Coast and all that stuff and still building my name, and for certain brands to be like, oh no, we'll talk to you about a shoe. We'll listen. I mean, we may not put things in a full steam yet, but we're willing to hear you out. We know you got great creative ideas. We trust you as a creative. What do you got? So that's something I'm grateful to all of them for, because they made what we love prominent and put it on the forefront. And a lot of it was street culture or urban culture. There's certain things that they brought to the masses and made the sacrifices, whether it was, certain splits on certain releases and stuff like that. Certain rights to certain things in the future, but they took the risk and it worked out in a lot of cases. But without them, couldn't be here myself.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't have said it better myself if I tried, man. Like that's the truth. And it's funny because we're all so caught up in like the buy now, sell now, flip now culture, what's going on now, that we got to take the time to sit back and appreciate the people before us and appreciate what we're doing. You just brought up, getting packages from brands. I'm fortunate enough too to have those kind of relationships, and people see a pair of shoes show up and they think, oh dude, like, Ricky's just got it. Like there's something special innately. It's just like, why is he getting free shoes? Like, why is so-and-so getting free shoes? They don't see the conversations with the brands and the work and the pitches that don't get picked up and everything that goes around to make stuff like that happen. The homie once said like, I think something like good work. Nah, I'm going to butcher it. I'm not going to try to quote him, but basically it comes down to like, the perks are just that, perks to good work. So you put in the good work, good things are going to happen.
Right.
But what I kind of want to segue into is you brought up all these people, brands you've worked with, and what are some of your favorites, and how do you, because you branch out a little bit. You look on your profile, you've done some stuff with Tesla, you've done stuff with outside of sneakers that is still creative. Yeah. So like, what are some of the favorite things in sneakers you've done? And kind of like Jacques, like how do you find a way to branch out outside of sneakers? Like, how does that work for you?
So some of my favorite stuff in sneakers, I mean, always working with Foot Inc. Has been a big thing for me, because it's like, you think about sneakers in the community, and Foot Inc. is sneakers in your community. So, for all y'all that don't fully understand the entire Foot Inc.'s footprint, I hope everybody does. I'm not here to give a history lesson on sneaker history. But like, understanding the difference, all the banners under Foot Inc., from Foot Locker to Foot Action to Champs to Foot Locker Women, Kids, House of Hoops, East Bay, and understanding all of that is all of Foot Inc. And working with them over the last couple of years, almost going on like 3 years right now, just the team that they have over there has been one of my favorite groups to work with, because it's a lot of like-minded, hungry people trying to elevate and change the culture for the right reasons. I see a lot of stuff at times where people will give flack. I got an issue with my reservation or my sneakers or something like this, and just not understanding how important they've been to the culture, and that the people that they have over there are true to the culture. There's a lot of people on those PR, media, content teams, the social media teams, marketing managers, and all that stuff that are really invested in the culture, that are from this culture, and I think when you see it in certain aspects, it really pours out. As far as some other things, man, like I said, that I got a lot of moments. So I gotta say, All-Star weekends are always fun, and my first one, in industry was LA a couple years back. And I had to fly out there alone last minute. So I was supposed to be there with a couple of guys from the magazine. Ended up having to make the trip alone. And the reason why it was an amazing experience for me was I had a lot of East Coast contacts for certain brands that didn't veer out and didn't work with some of the activation level stuff on that scale. Because, not to knock anybody at the time, but just certain things they weren't doing on the level of like All-Star Weekend. Like what you guys don't understand is some of the stuff that you may see Nike, Jordan Brand, Adidas, Reebok when they do things, or Puma or Under Armour, some of that stuff has been planned for years. Like everything that happened in Chicago for All-Star Weekend, that was planned for years before it came into fruition and all that stuff. So this year came into fruition this year. So with that, like I got off the plane, and the only thing that I had locked in the schedule for, like, I think I got there with like 5 days and gave myself, like, only thing I had locked in the schedule was some of the stuff I had with Nike and Jordan Brand. And I'm coming off of Fashion Week because I'm being in New York and all that stuff, working with a magazine, doing lifestyle stuff. We did fashion too. So I'm coming off of hustling for Fashion Week, and I'm talking about anybody that's ever worked or shot Fashion Week. You're at like 4 or 5 events a day minimum, just going from spot to spot to spot to spot. And my mindset was still in that. So I get out there and I only had Nike's set of activations and media events to set to do. Now, mind you, that'll break down in the schedule maybe 4 events a day or maybe 3, depending on what day it is, and they're spaced out. I ended up knocking out 29 events in 3 days, getting off the plane because I was still in Fashion Week mindset, from one spot to one spot to one spot to one spot, with only getting off the plane. And I mean, I got off the plane on Wednesday. Everything started Friday. When I got off the plane Wednesday midday, I got there in LA like 7 o'clock that night to get to my apartment, my hotel. Started lining everything up with everybody I know. Ended up working with everybody, and ended up having a full, complete weekend by just saying, I know everybody. Let me find out what's going on. Let me tap in with a few people. People know me. They love me. They should. Or how much do they love me? Have I earned my way into certain steps and certain stuff like that? So that was a real, real big moment. And then a caveat into that, when Adidas did the 757 warehouse, 747 warehouse street, 757 warehouse street.
Yeah.
They had the Bape trailers there with the dames and the Bapes.
Mm-hmm.
So, little story for the kids, for the people, for the listeners, and all that. And this is how we talk about the game. I'm there, and I got my camera, and I see Dame and them walk in. Then I see the guys from Bape. I see Bape's entire team. So everybody from Japan and all that stuff, Bape, they're there. I just put my head down and walk in right behind them. Like, there's a whole gate, like a row of gate things, like, with blocked off. And I'm just like, security don't bother me because I got my cameras up. I just hold my camera and I'm the only press guy there, not with Adidas and not with Bape. What ends up happening is in the trailer, there's no lighting in that trailer. They're like, yo, does anybody got a light on them? I had a light. I was the only dude there with a light. So all the press shots you see for the Bape Dame release, and I'm not going to take full credit, I'm the one holding light on all the shoes in that trailer. So I'm technically the guy that made that happen. And moments like that, just being in a place, putting your head down, sneaking into a door, or walking in some place and just acting and going with the flow, the art of the finesse, and then just being ready. That like opened up so much stuff for me in the future. Like just being like, thanks for being on top. Send me your stuff. Make sure we'll be in contact. And it's just been stuff like that. So like we talk about major moments of sneakers. That was a major moment of sneakers for me. Outside of sneakers, because I know I'm talking about like, and those are just ones that are memorable. I got plenty of other memories.
There's tons of them.
Yeah. If we talk about outside of sneakers,
how do you? I guess instead of having to get to like a specific thing you've done outside of sneakers, is how do you move like that? How do you get? Do you send out your sneaker resume and say I can also do this in your avenue? Like how do you get into other avenues?
So the funny part about that is my story is a little bit tougher on the give the pathway. I'll probably say things that can help somebody along the lines, but like I said, I lucked up with being at a publication. It was a small to medium-sized publication, a little bit more than a startup, and they were established in certain spaces. They were established in a couture space, and they wanted to transition over into lifestyle, and they had me handle a lot of the media and entertainment stuff, which initially started from sneakers. So they're like, okay, we'll let you talk about urban, which, sneakers and fashion. And then that blossomed. And then the thing that happened was sneakers started to be such a crossover thing that you see sneakers. We started to talk about high-end sneakers. We started to see sneakers on red carpets and at award shows and all this shit, that it allowed me to touch into different spaces. So what happens is, for me, was we're multifaceted people. Like, I'm a dude from around the way initially, but I also grew up playing video games just like anybody else. I also grew up into cars, into fashion, into sports, into anime and art. Like, it's all full surface. And for me, the biggest thing was always saying, like, you know what? I think, because we talked about Jock with it, you can go the avenue of saying, I'm going to show you my portfolio of what I do. I can do this likewise for you. But the biggest thing that's been beneficial for me is just showing genuine interest in that stuff. Like, if you've already got because when you work with agencies at times, because for y'all that don't know, it's not always working directly with Reebok, Puma, or Nike. Sometimes Nike will outsource and bring in an agency to be the middleman to bring in certain people for certain things. Mm-hmm. When you have those agencies, and for all y'all out there, just keep those agencies in mind and never burn your gatekeepers. Y'all gotta understand, never burn your fucking gatekeepers, because people will be like, oh, well, if you're good with an admin or receptionist or whatever you would refer to it, or somebody that works in the mailroom and they eventually may move their way up, they may have the ear of somebody that's going to be important to you. And they may also have a relationship with them to a standpoint of, if you cut around them and then that comes back down to them, even if you get above them by cutting around them, and they don't have positive things to say to a person that they're closer to you to than you are, that's going to burn you in the long run. So treat everybody with respect and all that stuff. But for me, what'll happen is a lot of the agencies I work with will follow and engage after I work on something for them, or they've seen, or I've done certain stuff at activations, and they'll say, oh, I also support this person. I also do this. I've heard you've had a track record for this. So yeah, I was doing some of the stuff with the magazine. Like, I do the auto show. I do Complex Con. I do Complex Con. If I do Complex Con, I may also do Comic Con. I may also do Fashion Week. I did the Grammys one year. They were doing Sundance. They did the Oscars. So, like, I've been in so much stuff that I have interest in. So what I say to say that is, I think the thing that works for Jock and what I've seen work for me, because we've never ever actually had the official conversation around it as much as we've been around it, or as many times as we've been around each other, not as much as we've been around each other. We've never had it. I say, don't stifle your interest. If you like a lot of shit, fuck with all that shit. Like, do all that because you enjoy it. And when people see that you genuinely enjoy something, it changes the dynamic. So if I do great product photography and they see that I may do it, like, if you buy something and you're a photographer or something like that, and I don't just mean with your phone, respectfully, unless you're putting moment lenses or different things on there to step your shit up, Showcase that. There's moments where I may just post something that I want to put together. Like, shit, I've worked with Google in the past. We just did something because I got a OnePlus in because that's separate, no longer working with Google. Trying to start some stuff and get some big stuff into motion with OnePlus. But I did just pick up a pair of Google Buds. They're mint because my OnePlus is like a mint colorway. I just got a Switch like 2 months ago, and I got the Animal Crossing edition that's like mint, and then I got something else that's mint. I was really just because that's the popping thing right now. You check out Modern Notoriety and all this stuff. They'll do color block codes and all that. And I was like, you know what? I got a bunch of mint shit that just came in. I should probably just take a photo of all this mint shit, comment some, put a fly ass caption, and let it be that. You never know what eyes you have on you, but if you show the genuine interest and create from that space, you're gonna attract those people. And that's how I tell people to get into different realms. Like, yo, if you like a bunch of shit, always be in and always be vocal about that shit that you're in. And don't let anybody from any brand or any space or any company tell you, yo, unless it's a non-compete direct competitor, you don't have to focus on one fucking avenue. If you like sneakers and you like food and you like fucking TVs, I don't give a fuck what it is. Figure out to be the person that makes content with fucking TVs, sneakers, and food all the fucking time. Combine your interests because it's your fucking life. That's your wellness. That's your joy. Do that shit.
That's the fucking awesome advice. I mean, because you're right. There's not always a blueprint or a playbook, but if you have the talent and you have the passion, a lot of people have talent. You know how many people work at every one of these brands who don't give a fuck about what they do? It's just they pay mad money and the retirement's super good.
Right.
The benefits are on point, but there's no passion there.
Right.
Eventually, you can get uprooted by somebody who has passion,
Right.
and be that person who comes in with the energy and the passion saying, I want to be here. Here's what I can do. Let's work.
Right.
Be that person.
Right.
That's great, dude. Kind of the last point I want to touch on here, because when this posts, it's probably going to be January, realistically, the way editing goes. So what's Ricky looking forward to in 2021? What's a goal of yours in sneakers, and just overall, what are you looking forward to? Drinking more? I don't know.
Now, actually,
sunshine.
Drinking, hung it up like my jersey's in the rafters is one of the greatest to ever do it. But for me, man, like this year was everything I could have imagined it to be. Ironically, it was even in the times we were in, like I wasn't under as much pressure as other people were under, and financially, I made out well this year. I made out differently than I planned on it. Like, we talked about doing a lot of, so I'm basically going to give that answer, but the goal was a lot of larger scale campaigns or work to say, all right, let me hit a strong 5-figure contract for something. Like, all right, you need me for 6 months to do this, that, and the third. Let me get a strong 5-figure. Let me get a good 35 racks. Let me get a good 50 racks for this. And it's not always about the money, but me being able to solidify that does different things for my company, my collective. So I get to tell somebody else, yo, you can focus on a project in a different way. Because I always live life on the Lil Wayne motto and all this stuff. If the food ain't on the table, I hunt for it. That's who I am. I'm a hustler. I'm a go-getter. I'm that type of person. But for me, I'd love to do, larger scale, multi-month campaigns. I've had a few things pop up in Times Square, but I'd love, what is it on? I'd love to have a actual physical billboard someplace. I'd love to say I can directly point back to certain things in my portfolio on that aspect. If you say me as a creative, if you say me with sneakers, I've been talking about a collab and talking to people about a collab for the last year and a half. And coming into this year, early in this year, right after All-Star Week and right before the pandemic kicked up and we actually realized what was going on as a country, that was something I was still in talks with. And I had some people that were like, yo, we're doing some stuff in the fourth quarter and we want you involved. And it's going to be an opportunity to have your own shoe. Unfortunately, with some of the things that happened, Some people had to go in some different directions. Brands had to go in different directions. So I love to be able to support a few brands on a larger scale. Love to get a shoe. For the world, man, I hope we just safely get live activations and concerts back. I said that earlier on Instagram today. I miss live performances. I miss activations. And maybe at a point, man, a series. But at this point, like I think having a series was a goal like 2 years ago or something like that. It's not really a thought anymore. Like I'm in a different space right now. I'm touching a lot of what I want to touch, and my opinion and say is out there in the ways that I want to do it. I want to continue to work with people. Continue to do stuff like this. Continue to be able to support some different brands and banners and stuff like that on the media side. So continuing to support my people over at Footwear News, continuing to support my people over at Nice Kicks on Fire, continuing to support Complex, and them showing love to me and all that stuff. But that's really what I want in 2021. And on a personal scale, just more growth and more wellness. That's how I look at things. That's how I focus.
Mm-hmm. Good goals, good things to look forward to. It's shitty when you think about it like, oh, in February, Q4 2020 can't come soon enough. Let's have that conversation. And we just left Q4 of 2020, and it's like, oof,
right.
Jesus, thank God that's done.
Right.
So a lot can change in a year, but as long as you're having that growth, people. This is one of the oldest sayings in the book. Think of growth. I mean, success as a ladder or a straight line up. There's going to be divots. You're going to have something great in February that doesn't happen later in the year. You're going to have 3 great things happen in a row, and then one bad thing's going to happen and set you back.
Yeah.
It's all about how you bounce up, how you bounce back. So
that's a real thing. And I got something on that. I got something quick on that too. I realize, and this is my points of wellness for the people because I'm into that too. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a wellness influencer or get any of that. But if you ask me personal questions, have personal conversations, I can touch on that. We as people got to stop looking at it good and bad as contingent upon one another. They're 2 separate items that may happen. So if you're having a good day and something bad happens, that bad thing didn't ruin your day or take over the good. It was just a bad thing that happened in the day as well. They can't be daisy linked to one another. So if we're looking at our journeys and you said 3 good things, 1 bad thing, that doesn't mean the journey's now bad. That bad incident is independent upon itself, and just look at it just that way.
That's very well said. I'm going to take that to heart. That's a good way because you're right. Just because you get your socks wet at 11 in the afternoon doesn't mean your whole day's ruined. Just you had a bad 11 o'clock, get them socks off,
right.
Continue about your day.
Right. And it doesn't impact anything else. It's like, oh, nah, man, damn, this is throwing off. Like, for me, like, if we talk about, like, pivoting and how things change, I lost 75 racks this year. Like, if we talked about where I said how things were supposed to be, we had 75 racks of opportunities on the table within a 4-month span of stepping in and doing creative direction, stepping in and doing content for somebody else, stepping in and doing a rebrand and rebuild for somebody on a social media style and some social media side and some content, all panned out to be $75,000. Listen, I'm not in a space where bringing in $75,000 in a chunk will not affect me. I'm nowhere near that. So to say like, yo, that didn't happen, and I can still look at everything this year and smile, and it's not because that didn't happen. Like, oh, that threw me off. I had a bunch of other stuff that I was able to do because that didn't happen. They're not contingent upon each other, and that's like a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful lesson. That's, man. I can. So people think that like, oh, how much can it cost to have like a social media campaign, or I need to get a new label made, or I need to get a new branding. Let me throw you $100 and just laugh. Like people just don't understand the dance and the science, and especially as a creative, because you're your own cheerleader.
Right.
If you're not championing yourself to make X amount of dollars, they're not trying to pay you that amount of money. So you got to be your own cheerleader. You got to be your own champion, and you got to stay in stride. Whatever bad things might happen to you in 2021, look at it as an independent thing. There's going to be plenty of other good things happening. Don't let it ruin everything.
At all. And you said it so real, like people not understanding the value. You got to think about it this way. And I'm pulling from Chris Doe from Blind Agency out in Cali. He's got the future on YouTube. YouTube, check him out. You can see him talk about this when it comes down to branding. For all my people listening in that space to try to get into branding, the creatives and all that. So he asked, how much is a logo worth? Because we're talking about branding right now. You said somebody may say $100. How much is a Nike? How much is the Nike swoosh worth? So we can think about what it took to design that and when it was designed and how much it costs. But what's the return, the ROI on that swoosh? That swoosh is independent on itself upon the fact that it can take a $10 or $5 cost of item that is made, and as soon as it's placed on there, that price quadruples. It's 10 times its value by going to say that little icon. So how much is your creativity worth? Now, I'm not telling you to be a dick out here. I always told y'all to know your dope and all that stuff with the brand. Y'all know that. But what I'm telling you is understand what you're bringing and allow those conversations to be had. I tell you this, my biggest thing is whenever you're working with anybody, and this is not a shot because I have lovely relationships with brands, but I've heard of horror stories from certain people. So, you may look at a Nike, Adidas, and Puma, and shit, Ferrari or Lamborghini or Samsung or Google or whoever, and you may become intimidated because you say, they're these big motherfuckers, they don't need me. You're in that room for a reason. You're in that space for a reason. And remember, every single situation you do needs to be mutually beneficial because they have you there for a reason. If not, they pay somebody to do it internally. They brought you in for a reason.
Google don't need you. I mean, like, that's a fantastic point, man, because it's like you could feel some kind of way like, oh, I don't feel comfortable asking, like, it's the opportunity, like I don't feel comfortable asking for X dollars.
Right.
It's Google, I'm getting all this notoriety. No, fuck that. Put that in your back pocket, make your money. Right. It's Google, they can afford to pay you.
Right.
So flip that mindset. If you're worried, you always got to flip that. Like, it's not about, don't trip out about, like, if you're overdoing it, like you said, don't burn bridges, be negotiable, keep it within reason. Right. But know your worth, man. Like, once I found out what some other things were costing people and what I was charging, like, I now tell people I can't do that work for that amount of money because the amount of time it takes me versus the money I make doesn't add up.
Right.
I would love to do it for you.
Right.
But I'm sorry.
Nah, and that's the thing. Like, you got to trust you. And don't be scared because the thing is like this. The funniest thing that I've ever seen, I've had my moments where I've been like, I'm about to throw this ass to so-and-so and we're going to see what happens. Because they always say, like, people are going to lowball. They think if you're known to be a person to shoot high, you may expect to get a number that's under and all that stuff. So do have your number you're really comfortable with if you're an overshooter. Never undercut yourself. Get exactly what you feel like you want out of this. Don't try. And the biggest thing that I was told from somebody from a brand, because there's two parts to this. The first thing is I've had those moments where I've been like, I'm about to throw this number out there. We're about to jump out the window on this one. And the response I got was, okay. Not even the whole conversation of, why would you ask for that? What do you think you'll need within this? It's
okay, period.
Okay, period. One. Second part is I've had people at brands, never gonna name any names, doesn't matter, is tell me, like, this ain't my motherfucking money. Yes, I've got a budget that I'm responsible and all that stuff, but don't think you're doing me a favor by saying these are my guys, this is who I have a relationship with, let me save them a little bit of money. This is not impacting their personal salary. This isn't impacting their bonuses, their job security, unless you start to do some flagrant shit. Do not think you're doing the person that you have a good relationship with a favor by giving them a discount. Charge that brand what they should be paying for you.
Mm-hmm. Because on the flip, if you don't do that and you take that work, your ass going to be sitting there salty the entire way through. It's like, man, I should have had this shit done 3 hours ago.
Exactly.
I'm over it. And I've been on that side too. So you live and you learn, right? You got to fuck up to learn something. So, man, this has been probably one of my favorite conversations just about learning and moving. I think learning to move and teaching how to move, teaching people how to salsa right in 2021 is going to be my focus more and more. Having more people who've been doing it, who have had failures, had successes, been in those conversations, because all the conversations happen behind closed door. We see a pair of Jordan 11s wrapped up in a box and they're sent to you in a brown box with a Nike just do it, and you have your product. There's so much more that goes in with the people
Right.
and processes that if I can have my hand in anything in 2021, we're bringing more of that to life.
Definitely. And definitely
So
giving the understanding, because that's what we're starting to see now. You're starting to see, whether it's, listen, for all y'all out there, there's a way to see everything that you love. If you want to know how to make certain approaches, you want to know how to build a quote, want to know how to put your business together, you want to know certain processes on becoming a better shooter. If you're a shooter, if you want to become a better content creator, if you're a TikToker, if you're doing whatever you're doing in that space, if you're a designer, on the actual, whether you're a digital designer, whether you're a designer in scale to say that you're actually going to do, sneakers and getting into design and fashion, whatever aspect, whatever. If you're sitting there saying, yo, I want to be a personality, I want to have a show, I want to have a talk show, I want to have a podcast, I want to do video version of this, I want to be a videographer, whatever the space is, there's a lot of people out here that's giving out a lot of game. And I come from the era the game is sold, not told. But I also come from the aspect that each one teach one, and it takes a community. And when you have a lot of people that are in places right now that aren't insecure with their stuff, because I'm glad we're starting to get past that wave of things, because there were some gatekeepers from some of those previous generations that were hesitant to hand over the keys because of their own inferiority complexes with themselves and all that shit. That ain't got nothing to do with us. Right now, a lot of people are getting the opportunity and they're sharing. Listen, this is how this actually happens. Smallest thing I do everything. I put all my camera settings in every single post that I do. I'm a photographer first in certain aspects when I'm behind the camera, but I also curate all my shots before when I'm in front of the camera. Like, we'll do test shoots with me, having somebody else model in and fill in and all this stuff. But I'm going to make sure the next batch of photographers can say, all right, I just picked up this camera. At least I know how he did it to get the lighting right. You're not going to understand the editing and aspect of it just yet, but at least you can sit there and say, I know why he's using what he's using. I understand what the difference is. I know where to go with certain things. And that's the biggest thing, man. Like, give that game away, because holding on to it, the fuck are you going to die with knowledge that's going to put you on the top? Like, there's no such thing as one king and queen. Like, yo, there's always been multiple kings and queens. There's never been one supreme ruler of anything. So why the fuck are we walking around like that?
I want to get some Odyssey. That's what we're stepping in 21, so I can have like a little soundboard. I got some clapping there. That's gospel. I mean, it really has been a change to see people want to do something, but then not doing it because they think they don't have the skills, but they're not being smart enough to get their ass on YouTube and just Google it. I'm saying? It's just like, it's not hard. Information's always, game is out there. Like you said, there's game to be picked up. Go pick it up. Right. It could be in a book. It can be on YouTube. It can be from hearing somebody talk on a podcast. Right. So whatever it comes from, just pick it up. Don't be an idiot and leave it there. Right. Pick it up.
And continue to share it, because that's how we better the world that we love. Because the game's about love. We listen, the money comes with the love and all that stuff. You do this because you love it. It's also lucrative. You've made that situation for yourself. Continue to do that. But most important thing, if you're going to learn and you were lucky enough to be given gems, pass gems along when it's your time to do so.
Yes. Do not bottle it.
Right.
So we're going to end it there. We like to end on some positivity. So that's a good note to end on. Ricky, I appreciate you beyond everything for coming out here and talking to everybody the last hour. It's been a great time. Where can they find you? What are your handles?
I mean, you guys know, like, I solely focus on my Instagram. So check me out on Instagram, Space Camp Fresh. And you know the website, bigkids.com, bigkyds.com for the Know Your Dope brand. Check out Kids Meals. They're starting up their own startup for the food side, which is KYDS again, and then Meals. Work-wise, just continue to look for me in different places. Like, you guys Google me and all that stuff, but definitely keep checking out for me and with Foot Action, with Puma, with Reebok, with recently with who did we just do that with? Sorry, Polaris, man. Like, shouts to that launch on that. So, like, continue to look for me in different spaces. You'll see me with a lot of brands that you may not expect it. You'll see me with some of your favorite brands at the same time.
I might need some car backgrounds for my computer, but that's what's up.
Got you.
Hey, Ricky, again, thank you. And listeners, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you go leave a comment on Apple Podcasts. But above all, thank you for spending time with us. Everybody have a good day. Peace.
Later.
Cool. So